The last two things that we need to do on this sheet of this class for the project manager is get these two cells working. This was A2 and A3. They've been saying ref for quite a while because we messed them up when we deleted all these rows and columns and moved around cells and stuff. We're going to start with A3, and this has got code in it. We're going to double click to reveal that code underneath. And what that code is saying is the contents of this cell are equal to the words total milestones colon space and then and a whole bunch of addition. What it's doing here is it's adding up the contents of a whole bunch of different cells and giving a number. Now, a lot of these cells don't exist anymore because we deleted them when we erased all those columns. So we're going to have to fix all this stuff up right here. And here's what I want you to do. We're going to take just the list of cells, select everything that comes after that ampersand symbol. Double click on this cell to reveal its code, and then select everything that comes after the ampersand and delete all of that. Now the contents of the cell are just equal to the words total milestones and some math. Well, we need to now tell us what to add up. And what we're going to be adding up is all these milestone counters. Here's one and here's one. So the cursor right here is blinking in my code, and that means if I click on a cell, it's now going to put that cell in my code. You can now see it says cell G3. That is cell G3. We're now going to add a plus sign. I want that cell here to calculate G3 plus. Now click on my next milestone counter, which is this one right here, that. Now G3 is plus O3. Plus sign again, and keep on scrolling to the right until you've got all your milestone counters added. So here's the next one. Click on it, which adds it, U3, plus. Click on the next one, adds AA3, plus. The next one, that one was AG3, plus. And keep marching down the line until you get to your very last one. Hit the last one, and that's all you need to do. You don't need another plus sign after that. When I hit enter, it's going to confirm that that's the code that I want. But before I do, I'm just going to scan through and notice that each of these cells is highlighted. I'm being careful not to click with my mouse. I'm just pointing to things without clicking on them. And I want to go through and make sure that all my milestone counters are being counted by this cell right here, including the very first one. So now the contents of this cell are going to be equal to the words total milestones and cell G3 plus cell O3 plus cell U3 plus AA3 plus AG3 plus AO3. When that is ready, simply hit enter and it should be working. Right now, my total milestones are 0. Now let's just test this and make sure that it worked. This unit is supposed to have 15. I could check all of these and it would add up to 15, but I'm just going to quickly type in 15, overwrite the code, and just test that really quick. So now my milestone counter is up to 15. This unit's got 5, so I'm just going to go ahead and type a 5 right there. I'm going to go check my counter. We're up to 20. And this one's got 11. I'm going to say, well, that student's got all 11. And this one's got 5. Type in the 5. My green stuff isn't all popping up because I haven't finished setting up this unit. I'm just doing this one for demonstration purposes. And the last one, all 14 of those milestones are complete. Now, if we did it right, then this should be a student who's gotten all of their milestones finished. And now the total milestones should be 97. Okay, that brings up our next step, cell A2. A2 is calculating what percentage of the total milestones this student has achieved, and we're going to need to fix the programming on it as well. If you double click on that, you see a bunch of code. I'm not even going to explain this one. Don't worry about it. Google it if you want to see what that one does. The only thing you have to worry about here is that total number. Now, in my default class sheet that I gave you, there were 555 possible milestones. But this class that we're building right now, in my case, only has 97 milestones. In your case, you got a different number right there. But whatever that number you have right there represents the total possible milestones for your student. What we're going to need to do now is write down that number somewhere where you're going to remember it. You can write it down on a sheet of paper, or you could just come over here and write it on some cell that we know we're going to delete later. Or you could just come over here and write it on some cell that you're going to delete later. 97 is my total number. Now, the reason why I needed to write that down is because I've got to undo what I did here earlier. I typed in these numbers, which erased that lovely code that we had worked so hard on building in all these cells. So I need to do some undos before I do anything else. Using my keyboard shortcut for undo, let me move all the way out here because I think this was the last one I typed in. So undo, 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 and it's each time I undo, it's putting a 0 back in one of these cells, and it's restoring the original code that was in those cells. Undo, undo. Love those multiple undos. So now this milestone counter is still correctly counting all those cells, but all those cells have reverted back to what they had before. If you're really worried that you might have messed something up, double-click each one of them and make sure their code is still working. Double-click and make sure those codes and those milestone counters are working. They should be if you did the right number of undos. So we now know, oh, you know what? One of those things I undid was writing down my number right there, or typing in the number. It was a 97, I just happened to remember. So hopefully you wrote yours somewhere else. So the total number of milestones possible are 97. This student right now has got 0 because that's the way we need to give them the spreadsheet. We just need to add that number up here. So remember this cell A2, this double click with this code that we were worrying about? Instead of 555 possible units, my particular course has 97 possible milestones. Just type in the number of total possible milestones right there, hit enter, and now this percentage is correctly calculating the percentage milestones this student has achieved. Before I forget, I'm going to delete my 97 from right there because I don't want students to see that. If you really want to test it again, then all get and beta testing is such an important part of all programming, it's probably a good idea. Let's test it again. Let's override our cells again. This student got 15 milestones there, 15, and we're 15% in. Got 5 there, and we're 21% done with the class. 11 right here, we're up to 32%. Notice the colors are changing too, that's kind of nifty. 5%, and over here, 47 milestones are complete. We're up to 86% done with the class. 14 milestones are complete. If I did my math right, then we're now at 97 and 100%. So yes, this student has now completed 100% of the course, which means 97 completed milestones. One last thing that you might want to do is if you want your students to turn everything green, we just need to adjust the formatting on that milestone 97. If I was to go to conditional formatting right now and do it, see how that text contains 555, change it to 97, but I don't want to do that right now because first I need to undo all these numbers I typed in. So let's undo again. This unit has reset back to 0, undo, that unit's reset back to 0, undo, undo, undo. We need them all reset back to 0 before we give it to our student, and we should be looking at 0% milestones, but we still remember that 97 number. So go to this cell, A3, right-click on it, and go to its conditional formatting. And right now, if the text contains 555, it's supposed to turn green. Instead of 555, we just want to change that to 79. In my case, the total number of milestones possible in this class, and that will turn that cell green. And then you've got a class unit list, a list of all the steps you want students to do in this particular class, and it's ready to share with students. And they'll be able to check their progress and keep up with their progress as they go through the class. Congratulations, you are ready with this particular class.